Welcome to War Bios, the podcast where we delve into the lives of history's greatest military minds. I'm your host, General Biography, and today we're exploring the fascinating life of Frederick the Great, one of the most brilliant and influential leaders in European history. Born on January 24, 1712, in Berlin, Prussia, Frederick would go on to become a legendary king, statesman, and military commander, leaving an indelible mark on the world. As we begin our journey through Frederick's life, let's set the stage for his early years. The year was 1712, and Europe was abuzz with the intrigues of royal courts and the rumblings of war. Frederick's father, King Frederick William I of Prussia, ruled with an iron fist, determined to build a strong and efficient state. His mother, Queen Sophia Dorothea, was a woman of great intelligence and cultural refinement who would play a significant role in shaping her son's love of learning. Frederick's childhood was marked by the strictures of a military upbringing, with his father demanding absolute discipline and obedience. The young prince was awakened at 5:00 a.m. every morning for a rigorous regimen of exercise, study, and drill. Despite this austere environment, Frederick's natural curiosity and love of learning flourished. He devoured books on history, philosophy, and literature, often sneaking away to read in secret when his father's strict rules forbade it. As a young boy, Frederick was fascinated by the world beyond Prussia's borders. He spent hours poring over maps, reading about the great empires of Europe, and dreaming of the day when he could lead his own army into battle. His father, however, had other plans for him, intending to mold Frederick into a dutiful and obedient prince, devoid of any frivolous ambitions. The influence of Frederick's family members played a significant role in shaping his personality and informing his future decisions. His sister, Wilhelmine, was a close confidant and shared his love of music and literature. The two siblings would often spend hours discussing the latest books and musical compositions, and Wilhelmine would later become a trusted advisor to Frederick during his reign. Frederick's education was rigorous and wide-ranging, with a focus on the classics, mathematics, and languages. He was tutored by some of the most prominent scholars of the time, including the philosopher and historian Jacques-Aigé de Duhan de Jandun. His intellectual curiosity and love of learning would serve him well throughout his life, as he navigated the complex web of European politics and military strategy. As we explore Frederick's early life, we begin to see the emergence of a complex and multifaceted individual, driven by both a desire for learning and a passion for action. His relationships with his family members, the influences of his tutors, and the cultural landscape of Berlin all contributed to the development of a young man who would eventually become one of history's greatest military minds. The Berlin of Frederick's childhood was a city of grandeur and beauty, with its ornate palaces, bustling markets, and vibrant cultural scene. The royal family resided in the magnificent Palace of Charlottenburg, surrounded by lush gardens and picturesque lakes. Frederick spent much of his childhood exploring the city, visiting the royal palaces, and watching the military parades that were a staple of Prussian life. The young prince had been shaped by his family, education, and environment, but he was also driven by a fierce determination to forge his own path in life. As we enter the realm of Frederick's military career, we find ourselves in the midst of a Europe torn apart by conflict and intrigue. The year was 1740, and Frederick, now King of Prussia, was determined to make his mark on the world stage. He began by launching a series of bold military campaigns, designed to expand Prussian territory and secure his place among the great powers of Europe. Frederick's first major military victory came in 1741, when he defeated the Austrian army at the Battle of Mollwitz. This triumph not only showcased Frederick's tactical genius, but also demonstrated his willingness to take risks and challenge conventional wisdom. The Prussian army, once considered a minor player on the European stage, was now a force to be reckoned with. Over the next several years, Frederick led his army to a string of victories, including the Battle of Chudesitz in 1742 and the Battle of Hohenfriedberg in 1745. These triumphs cemented Frederick's reputation as a brilliant military commander and earned him the admiration of his contemporaries. His innovative tactics, which emphasized speed, maneuverability, and adaptability, would influence European warfare for generations to come. One of Frederick's most significant contributions to military strategy was his development of the oblique order tactic. This innovative approach involved attacking the enemy's flank while simultaneously weakening their center, creating a decisive advantage on the battlefield. The oblique order would become a hallmark of Prussian military doctrine and play a key role in many of Frederick's future victories. As we explore Frederick's military campaigns, it becomes clear that his successes were not solely due to his tactical genius. He was also a master of diplomacy and politics, able to navigate the complex web of alliances and rivalries that characterized 18th-century Europe. Frederick's ability to form strategic partnerships and negotiate favorable treaties allowed him to maintain a delicate balance of power, often keeping his enemies at bay through a combination of military strength and diplomatic cunning. Frederick's relationships with other European leaders were multifaceted and often tumultuous. He was particularly close to the French philosopher Voltaire, who would become a trusted advisor and confidant. However, Frederick's relations with other monarchs, such as Maria Theresa of Austria and Catherine the Great of Russia, were more complex and frequently antagonistic. Despite facing numerous challenges and setbacks, Frederick remained undaunted, driven by a fierce determination to secure Prussia's place among the great powers of Europe. His military campaigns, though often brutal and devastating, were always guided by a clear strategic vision and a deep understanding of the political landscape. Frederick's achievements on the battlefield, combined with his diplomatic acumen and strategic vision, have cemented his place among the greatest military minds in history. As Frederick entered his later years, he faced a series of personal challenges that would test his resolve and character. The death of his mother, Sophia Dorothea, in 1765 was a significant blow, as she had been a constant source of support and guidance throughout his life. Additionally, Frederick's relationships with his family members became increasingly strained, particularly with his nephew and heir, Frederick William II. Despite these personal struggles, Frederick remained committed to his work as a leader and continued to pursue his vision for Prussia. He devoted himself to domestic policy, implementing a series of reforms aimed at modernizing the Prussian state and economy. These reforms included the establishment of a new system of education, the promotion of trade and commerce, and the development of a more efficient and effective administrative system. Frederick's later years were also marked by a growing sense of introspection and reflection. He began to question the nature of war and its impact on society, and he became increasingly disillusioned with the brutal and destructive aspects of conflict. In his writings, Frederick grappled with the moral implications of war, acknowledging the suffering it caused and the difficulties of reconciling military victory with humanitarian concerns. One of Frederick's most significant legacies was his role in shaping the Enlightenment values that would come to dominate European thought in the 18th century. He was a patron of the arts and sciences, and his court attracted many of the leading intellectuals of the time, including Voltaire, Kant, and Diderot. Through his support for these thinkers, Frederick helped to promote the ideas of reason, tolerance, and intellectual curiosity that would shape the modern world. As we look back on Frederick's life, it is clear that he was a complex and multifaceted figure, driven by a combination of ambition, intellect, and passion. His legacy extends far beyond his military victories, embracing a broad range of cultural, philosophical, and political achievements. Today, Frederick the Great is remembered as one of history's most influential leaders, a man who helped to shape the course of European history and whose ideas continue to inspire and inform us. In the words of Frederick himself, the greatest and most important challenge for a ruler is to make his people happy. This sentiment captures the essence of Frederick's approach to leadership, which was guided by a deep commitment to the welfare and prosperity of his people. That's all for today's War Bios. Remember to like, share, and subscribe, and until next time, I'm General Biography, reminding you to keep marching toward victory.